Hi and welcome to A World of Words. Today I'm going to talk about writing advice that I ignore. So I'm back with another writing video. I don't know if this is really a writing vlog or writing advice. It's just like writing related. I don't know. It doesn't have a clear category. In today's video, I am going to discuss some writing advice that I have come across and that I don't personally agree with, or that just does not work for me and the stories I'm writing for the reasons that I'm going to explain in this video. If you swear by any of these writing tips, you do you. This is not necessarily me telling you what to do, it's just me explaining these writing tips that I've come across and that they don't work for me and why. I just thought this would be an interesting video idea, and we could even like discuss how we feel about these different tips in the comments below and have like a polite discussion about it. Obligatory disclaimer aside, I'm going to get right into the tips, and the first one is the one I feel the most strongly about. I once read an article that said you should to limit your point of view characters. This article really did not like multiple points of views pretty much at all, I think, and they said especially do not have more than 3 point of view characters, and that part really irritated me because multiple point of view books are my thing. They are my favorite type of books to read, and so I write them. I know why that advice was given. It was given because multiple point of view can be kind of hard to control if it's not done well. A lot of people don't like multiple point of view. There are so many booktubers who I really love their videos and I love their opinions on books. I felt like we had really similar tastes in books until they say that they don't like multiple point of view books, and I'm just kind of like, oh well. I absolutely love multiple point of view books. I think that they are the most interesting because I think it is fun to get to know different characters, and I'm just going to say right here that my books each have, I think 2 of my books have like 5 main point of view characters, and then the other one has 4 main point of view characters that are like the main characters. But there are also point of views from a bunch of other characters, because like part of the point of the books that I write is the different point of views and how things can get misinterpreted. And the main thing that I think is really interesting is like how one person can make a decision based off of an assumption they have of another person, and how that assumption is often wrong, and how that can cause all sorts of different things. And like very simple interactions can affect different things, and that's one thing that I really work to explore in my books, and I hope it comes across well. And that's one thing that I think is really interesting and one of my favorite things about multiple perspective, aside from the fact that you can just get so much more out of the story when it's multiple perspective, and that's why I love it, that's why I write it. And so that piece of advice just does not work for me. I'm gonna stop talking about it because I think you get it. The next piece of advice is one I think I mentioned in my last writing vlog, and that is, I have heard the advice that you should not edit while you are writing your first draft. Basically, you should write the whole draft all the way through without really looking back. This is especially NaNoWriMo advice, which I guess kind of makes sense for NaNoWriMo, but it's also been told as like general writing advice. As you're writing your first draft, you shouldn't like fix sentences and try and pick like the perfect word for this sentence, because then when it comes time to come back in like a dolphin, I don't know what I was doing there, and cut scenes and things, that you will be already too attached to the scene and then you won't feel like you can cut it. I just don't really agree with that at all. My writing process is that I am generally working on more than one thing at one time because I like the option of jumping around and writing what I feel like. That also tends to mean that my projects get done a lot slower because I'm working on more than one of them. I think this last book that I'm writing, and I'm almost to the end of what I think will be hopefully final polished draft of it. I was looking at like the timestamps that I was writing it. It's taken me like a good over 2 years to write this thing and like finish it all the way. So the fact that if I didn't edit as I went along, I feel like I would have missed out on a lot of things that I wanted to put in the book, And also I don't feel like trying to make a nice sentence or trying to make a pretty description is ever a bad thing. Even if you end up cutting a really good scene, if you have pieces of description or dialogue that you're really proud of, just save it in another section. You can copy and paste, that's what it's there for, and save your scene that you liked, and you might be able to use parts of it, or at least clever descriptions or clever sentence structures that you came up with. There might be a way that you can salvage parts of the scene, maybe even use it in a future book in the same series. So I don't think there's ever a waste in practicing description or practicing choosing more interesting words. And also I think it's just less confusing overall when you go back into the story, especially if you've taken a break. I just don't agree with it. It just doesn't really work. Third tip is the most basic one that everyone says that a lot of people disagree with, is you write what you know. I don't think I need to go into too much detail about why this is not applied to me as a fantasy writer and somebody who hasn't really lived the most exciting life. Writing what I know would really limit my writing to, it would be very boring. Let's just put it that way. I do think it is essential to take your own experiences, like how you feel when you experience different emotions and things, how it feels to be in different weather, certain experiences of being generic shoes that are really cute but actually turn out to not be as comfortable as you first thought. And it's painful. Like, you can use that in experience when maybe a character has a similar situation, like fancy clothes that are like a little bit binding and then they try and do some athletics in them or something. I don't know. Eating something delicious or something gross. You know, simple life experiences like that. Use those 100% to bring realistic things into your world. But if you only write what you know and you don't know, say, about dragons, can't really research dragons or talk to a dragon writer or, you know, talk to somebody who has trained in a magical academy, for example, writing what you know isn't really gonna get you all the way. It'll get you part of the way, but not all the way, unless you write about your own life, which people can do, but it's not what I do. Next one is to break up writing novels with writing short stories. A couple months ago I read an issue of Writer's Digest that was focused on short stories, and they went on about how great it was to write short stories. And I've even heard this advice other places too, that writing short stories is a really great way to break up writing novels. You can use it to either further character development, you can use it to just like get your mind off of it and do something else, and you can use it to practice different writing styles and all of this really great stuff that even got me like excited and made me want to start trying to write short stories again, even though I hate short stories. I do not like them, I don't like reading them, I don't like writing them. Those are my feelings. They're very strong. I'm not just being immature, it's that I haven't read enough short stories. No, I was an English major. I read a lot of short stories, and this is not short books. This is not even novellas. This is like short stories and flash fiction. There are some short story collections, like My True Love Gave to Me. Stories can be longer, like 50-something pages, and those are okay. And now the main thing from that is to give yourself a break and switch to something else, and that's why I work on more than one novel at a time. So I have my own solution to that. And if you like writing short stories, good for you. Go for it. You can actually get a good amount of recognition from writing short stories and getting them in literary magazines. That's like a really great way to build up your portfolio. The next one is to use different dialects and accents in your writing to give your characters different voices. And I'm going to end this portion with a slight alternative to this piece of advice in and of itself. I see the point of it. I've also seen it executed, and I just don't like it. It takes twice as long for me to figure out what a character is saying when they're talking in this different dialect, and then the author changes the spelling of the word to match how the character is pronouncing the word. And it takes me out of the story, and it also kind of makes me dread when that character comes on the page, because I know I'm gonna have to then try and decipher what they're saying. There are books that are completely written in dialect. Like, it could be any dialect. It could be them trying to talk with like a Scottish accent. And I understand why people like dialects because it feels realistic and all of that. But me personally, I really don't like it, and it really takes me out of the story. I will probably actively avoid books that do this. I have a like counter option of what I could do and what I might do instead. I really don't use a lot of accents in my books generally because I feel like when people describe people's accents in books, it's kind of distracting and I don't really see the point of it because I automatically read everyone with an American accent no matter what the author says their accent is. That's just because that's how I am used to speaking. That's just what I read as default. I will not read in default as like a British accent, even if the characters using British slang, they will always be in American accent. Instead, I think if you want to give your characters unique voices, what I would do and what I have seen done in other books that works way better in my personal opinion is to, first of all, you could use different like vocabulary words. Like your characters have different vocabulary, so say they are raised in a medieval setting, they might use different terms. For example, a very simple one that I use is instead of they say really, my characters say truly. Instead of saying just, my characters say simply. Like this just won't work, this simply won't work. Do you really think that? Do you truly think that? Just very simple ways to show that they are kind of raised in a different setting and different vocabulary is just more common for them. Also using different slang words, like for example, if the character is British, they say mate. If a character is Southern, if they say y'all once in a while. Too often it's really annoying if they're like always saying mate. That would get annoying. And if they're always saying y'all, that would get annoying. But like once in a while, instead of like make it naturally flow in their dialogue, that works really well. I think for me that works a lot better and seems a lot more natural on the page than really spending a lot of time switching up the spelling so that they say words or in an unconventional way just to try and make it sound like they are talking in an accent. The next piece of advice is one that I got in college, and that was to only ever use said and no other dialogue tags. I actually had a teacher who made a rule that we could only use said in our writing. We could not use he announced, we could not use shouted, yelled, anything like that. And it was just really limiting. I felt like I understand that said is like an invisible word, so it was very important to use it sometimes. It took away a lot of my creativity to only be able to use that because I like to switch it up now and again because I feel like when you use said, yes, it is invisible, but it becomes visible when that's all you use. So like once in a while you kind of need to switch it out with another word just to bring attention to the sentences that need to be brought to attention. And that's a really good way to do it, is to say something besides said. Otherwise said no longer becomes invisible and it becomes like this word that people are going to be like looking for all the time. I don't know. I really did not like that piece of advice and it really limited my writing. And I even got another student in my class that criticized me for only using said because I was told to only use it, and it like upset me, and so I feel very strongly about this. Rough times. And the final one isn't a writing tip so much as a querying tip. The piece of advice that I ignore is that you should not query as a series. You should query your book as a standalone with series potential. And I 100% understand why they say that. It is much easier, I think, to sell your book as a standalone with series potential, but it's going to be pretty clear from the endings of my book that they are series. So for me, there's really no point in just lying or trying to mislead the agent that I'm querying, saying that this is a standalone with series potential when you're going to read the end and know that the series is continued and the story is not done. So I am not a expert on the querying process. I know a lot about it, but I am not a success story yet. Can take any of my querying advice with a grain of salt. And that was it. Those are the top bits of writing advice that I personally ignore. If you have writing advice that you ignore, or if you've made a video on that subject, please let me know in the comments below because I would love to talk about it. If you also ignore this advice, again, let me know in the comments because we can discuss it, like I said in the beginning of this video, or if you disagree with me, you can politely tell me so and why you think I'm wrong. When I say feel free to disagree with me, I mean feel free to have like a polite and intelligent dialogue about it. So please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I upload videos every Monday plus surprise videos, so please subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. And again, thank you so much for watching and have fun and stay creative. Bye!